Testing, testing. That's much better. All right, now can you hear me? You should be able to. Yes. Okay. Sorry for the delay. Welcome to Between Two Slopes. Pokemon Day is right around the corner, so I got my Pokemon shirt on. It's a great day. But today we're talking about skis, like always. I'm actually pretty excited for this episode. My wife asked me to do an episode like this, and then a coworker of mine asked me to do an episode like this. So I was like, well, let's 2 for 2. Unprompted. I am a nerd. It's the best. So we're talking about skis in the Olympics, right? Like, and not necessarily like specifics as in like, this is the Ben Chetler 120 or this is the Amrata Idolo, right? We're talking like race skis, what they do. Ski jumping skis, what they do. Park and pipe skis, what they do. And kind of give you an idea. So now that you've finished watching the Olympics, if you've watched any, and you're like, what? Why does it matter what they're all on? Now you can understand a little bit. And then in 4 years, when you watch it again, you'll have a little bit of a better idea. Or if you watch any highlights. Hashtag marry the nerds. That's right. So before we dive into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow us on Instagram right here at Between Two Slopes. Posting lots of stuff, but we're, the season's got like a month and a half left. So we'll probably get kind of quiet during the summertime, but March and April are looking to be really great, at least here in Utah. All right, let's dive in. Let me make sure my sharing works. 1 second. I gotta tell it where to capture. There we go. Okay. So, skis. Lots of different types of skis. So we're going to start with race skis because I feel like that one is like really popular and like really highly viewed and has lots of questions. So this is Mikaela Shiffrin, right? She won gold for her division. This trophy that she's holding isn't from the Olympics, but the skis are. Now, race skis are very interesting because there is actually a lot of superstition around racing and race skis. So, sorry, my phone was going off. So as you can see, she's holding her Atomic. That's the Atomic Redster. But race skis are usually long and narrow. And the reason that is they need to be able to pivot edge to edge really fast, and they need to have lots of length so that you have more stopping power, right? And more carvability. So imagine you're skiing, right? And you start getting up to speed. You want lots of contact with the snow. And that's why the edge is so long. That way when you turn, the ski will grip into the snow and allow you to turn and maneuver better, and lock you into that turn, right? And the other thing about ski racing is their edges are much sharper than the normal edge of a ski, right? And what I mean by that is, if you've seen our videos on beveling, so normally there's like a 1 on the base and a 1 on the side for like your typical edge bevel. And the race skis have like a 2 on the base and a 3 on the side, or even a 3 on the base and a 3 on the side. And what that does is it makes the edge of that ski really fine and really sharp. That way when they're on icy conditions, they grip and they don't let go, right? And so it takes a really strong athlete to get that ski on edge and then be able to pull it out at the same time, or after the ski is, after you finish your turn, right? But you don't know what your conditions are going to be like day of. And so the person who skis, they're or tunes their skis, they actually have like 3 or 4 pairs of the exact same skis that are all tuned differently. And then depending on the conditions of when they go, they will, their coach or if their tech is there, will pull the ski specific for that condition. Now, this is where you get into some of the superstition. So, some coaches, they will go to the factories of like where these skis are made, and they will, when a factory has a lot of, like they're making skis, the base material comes in a roll, like a cinnamon roll. And that cinnamon roll, just like a cinnamon roll that you would eat, the middle's the best, right? And the coaches believe that the middle base material is better and will absorb wax better than the outside of this base material, right, of that roll. And so they want a ski made out of the middle of the base material, right? That's pretty serious. I'm a crazy person when it comes to tuning my skis. I don't know if I'm that crazy. So then the other thing that they do is there's a lot of variables, right? You got snow temp, air temp, you've got time of day, you've got like wind, all these different things that can impact a ski. If Mikaela Shiffrin, for example, goes and skis in Milan, okay, and she skis her best time and like breaks a world record on that ski with that tune, that ski will never be ridden again. Okay, and the reason that is because the tune is exact, and that whether it's the way it was constructed or whether it's the way it was tuned, it will be put away and marked as Milan 2026, these are the temperatures, these are the conditions, and it will be put away. And if Mikaela ever goes back to Milan, she will ride that ski if the temperatures match up, right? And they do that because there's so many variables that if for some magic reason they got the secret sauce, they never want to touch it again. And they'll just hold it until she rides that slope again. Once again, like lots of superstition. Mikaela Shiffrin's probably got that like hundreds of Redsters to her name. She can have as many as she wants, right? Because she's bringing home lots of publicity for Atomic. So that's kind of how some of the ski racing tuning as well as construction and different things go behind the ski. Race skis are also set back. So what that means is if you have the full length of a ski being like 180, we'll say just for math's sake, the middle of that ski would be 90 centimeters. Those skis are probably going to be mounted at like 10 to 15 back from center. And it makes it so that there's more ski in front of you. So when you lean in, it allows the tip of that ski to really engage into the turn and grip and allow them to turn the way they want to, right? That ski doesn't like someone who has more of a straight up posture. They want someone who's really aggressive and in, and that's what the ski is made for, right? So they're usually a little heavier, very stable, very sturdy, because they're have to be, right? So I wanted to show you an example, right? Like you could go and buy race skis today, right? If you wanted. So an example would be like the Stokely Laser WRT Pros. And a lot of times like carving skis or race skis will come with bindings on them. But they have like race core, beech and poplar wood, right? 2 sheets of Titanol, which just makes, right, a really stiff, rigid ski. And race skis also come with a pretty penny on them, and Stokely's are kind of on the more expensive side. But racing graphite base. Now, base material is very interesting because they're like your skin. They have pores to them. And the more density of the pores, the higher the number is in the rating scale. And so race skis have usually an 8,000 rating or higher. So this one doesn't say, but I'm sure it's around there. And you can see it's got like the graphite base. And so what they do is they actually put some graphite in it just to make it more durable. So look, here we go. Edge Factory is coming out with a 1 on the base and a 2 on the side. I actually didn't know that it was going to show that, which is super cool. So that's what I do on my carving skis. So even my gauchos right here, they're a 1 on the base and the 2 on the side, just because I usually only take them out on days that are, you know, more of a carving day, just because if there's any other great snow, I want something a little wider. But that just allows it to be really sharp and grip really well. But once again, the coaches probably look at this and customize it and have the tech customize it to the racer's preference. Yeah. So then turn radius, they always have a really short turn radius, right? Because they got to be able to skip edge to edge really quick. And then as you can see, like 67 is the waist width, which is narrow. So that's kind of an example. I've shown the Atomic Redster before, so I don't feel like I need to show that ski, but if you have any questions, let me know, and we'll move on. So we're going to go to the Big Air. Now, park skis are really interesting. They're closer to center mount, right? And the tip and tail of that ski are going to be constructed very similarly, so that if the athlete wants to ride switch, they can, or if the athlete wants to land switch, they can. But also in the air, the swing in the back and the front is going to be very, very similar or even the same, right? To make it so that the athlete can whip them around and have a consistent feel in the air. So, but one thing I wanted to show you, and this kind of goes back to the conversation that I had with Connor when he was on the show, is there's a lot of preference involved, especially with park skiing, because it's a lot of style, right? And so in the Big Air, we have our American athletes here. I guess he's American and Swedish, and I don't know what this guy is, but they're all riding Factions. Faction is a very popular park ski. And you can see that this gentleman here, I didn't grab their names, his ski is about as tall as him, maybe a little taller. This one's on par, and this one is much taller than him, right? And normally you want to have your ski, if you're like an expert skier, hit you at about like your hairline or preference is what I tell people. So sometimes park skiers have a preference of going a little shorter so that they can, you know, it's easier for them to swing that ski around. He probably has a longer ski because he's used to it, and because his skis probably are a little softer tip and tail to help him with his landings, right? Because when you land Big Air, you want to kind of land tail first so that it just like eases you into the landing a little bit better. So you can think of it as he has a little more landing gear, but once again, it's all preference. And that's what I wanted to show with these skis is, you know, each of them are at different heights, but all their skis are roughly the same height, and it's because they have that preference, right? So I wanted to show some park skis, but you can see here he's on what looks like some pivots. This looks like an STH. Pivots are like, park skiers like die for pivots, and pivots are cool, don't get me wrong, they're cool, I've got some, and I like them, but they eject differently, right? So park skiers really like them. They usually have a little more weight, and they usually have a little more serious of a din. So here's the Prodigy 1, which is what the American skier was skiing on. So let's just take a look and see what makes this ski special, right? So first off, you can see right here, 15% off, just kidding. You can see right here, we have a sidewall, right? And that's what that black is on the sidewall. But that sidewall material is really important because it gives more strength and stability to the ski, right? Sometimes park skis will have either like a semi-cap or even like a full cap construction. Usually full cap construction is a cheaper way to construct a ski. But yeah, you can see tip and tail both have a lot of rocker to them, and it's just to make those landings and those jumps easier. All right, so rocker, camber, rocker, we already saw that. Flex rating is a 7, so pretty good. Directional twin. Okay, so this is important. Usually directional twin is something you see, or you see a lot in the snowboard world, and it means that the ski is directional, but the tail of that ski can be ridden switch, is basically how you can look at it. So it's not like a true twin, is the words that they use, where the tip of the ski and the tail of the ski are the same. This ski would be a directional where the tip of the ski is going to be a little different than the tail of the ski. So, edges, usually, especially like Vocal, they'll tout having like a thicker edge material. And so you can see here, XL 2.5 millimeter edges, right? That's just touting that they've added 25% height on the Faction standard 2 millimeter, and it really just makes that edge of that ski stronger as well as more durable. And when people are park skiing, it's opposite as race skiing, right? We just talked about race skiing where they want their edges as sharp as possible. Park skiing is not that way. They don't want their edges as sharp as possible. In fact, a lot of park skiers will detune their edges, because if they go on a rail and their edges are really sharp, they'll catch and they'll fall and they'll either lose points or get injured, right? So they will detune their edges. There's even some park skis that don't have any edges at all, which is wild, but pretty cool. So they're also opposite of ski racers, where ski racers have multiple skis. Park skiers are definitely just going to have one, maybe two, right? Because they're used to a certain ski regardless of conditions, right? So really unique. Poplar and ash wood. Poplar's like a really lightweight poppy wood. Sintered UHMW base. That's probably not as serious a base material as a race ski, if I were to guess. But yeah, really cool ski. Look, it says full twin, but it doesn't say like true twin like I talked about. Waist width, once again, is, preference, right? There's a lot of preference in that. I'm pretty sure the Adolo is like a 92. Some people like to ride the Bentcheller 100s in the park and center mount it, and that would be a 100 waist, right? So a lot more preference in the park world than in the race world, which is pretty cool. And it makes sense, right? Because there's more style involved. So, yeah. Okay, next, I wanted to talk mogul skis, because this is another one that people are like, are they going to break their knees? And I'm like, yeah, they are. They're going to break their knees. I don't understand why people do this, but good for them, I guess. So you can see all of their skis, narrow and short, right? And the reason that is we don't want this super long, stiff ski when you're entering the moguls, the bumps, because if the tip of that ski catches, or if it's too long, the tip will get to the bump before you do, and it could jostle you in a way that you don't want, right? So you want it a little shorter so that it's easier to maneuver within those bumps, right? And they want to stay in like the crevices in between the bumps as much as they can, because that's where the speed is, right? And so that's why you see them just like boom, 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 boom. But then when they hit the jumps mid-run, they want something that's lightweight, easy to whip around, and easy to land on, right? And so this ski, the reason I picked this one, or this event, right, because I'm not going to be able to make it to every single event, is because it's like a blend of park skiing and ski racing, right? Because they're doing park related things, but they're doing it on what looks like a race ski, right? But it's not nearly as long. So it's really unique to kind of see how that plays in to how they ski. And there was someone who like landed backwards on their mogul jump. I thought that most of these skis were flat-tailed, which you could still land backwards flat-tailed, but it makes it a little harder. So I wonder if they have like a little bit of a rocker in the tail, which would be really unique, really cool. So don't need to dive too much more into that, I don't feel, right? I'm sure their edges are more of a standard than a race because they're in moguls, right? They don't need to be gripping and ripping on ice like a race skier, but they still need to have edges unlike a park skier, right? So an example of that would be like these K2 244s, right? Narrow, easy to whip around. I was actually curious on the weight of these skis. Duracap construction. Does that mean it's a full cap? Yeah. These skis are interesting. So why that catches my eye is a full cap construction. So when a ski is made, there's two types of constructions. Well, and then there's or in the Venn diagram of construction, there's two types. There's cap, and then there's sandwich. Sandwich means the wood core has that ABS sidewall, that plastic sidewall to help energy transfer and all that good stuff. Now, cap construction has the wood core, and then the graphic kind of goes all the way around it as like a cap, right? And then there's a blend of like semi-cap. Usually it's cheaper and the ski doesn't quite have the same control or edge as a full cap or a sandwich. So having a sidewall is usually more beneficial than having a cap ski. Usually you have cap skis for like junior skiers, that like tween skiers, because they're usually cheaper, but they perform pretty well. All right, let's see. So we got terrain, we got moguls here, right? Evo's the best place to like find all the info you can. Waist width, once again, like I said, we're shooting for something narrow. I wish it told me the weight in here, but turn radius, pretty tight. I'm actually a little surprised that they're that long because you want to be able to really whip those skis around. So cool skis. But that's kind of how the mogul world is in between the race world and the park world, in my eyes, right? So now we're going to check the ski jump skis. Now these things we're gonna take the ski race skis, so something like the Atomic Redster, and we're just gonna make it huge. Right, we're gonna make it wide and we're gonna make it long. I actually couldn't find a place to purchase these very well, but these skis are running like at least 220. They got it, maybe more, right? Centimeters, right? So I'm 6'1". I usually like to ski around 186. If I was ski jumping, I'd want something like a 1 or like a 220, maybe 225. And the reason that being is, once again, stability. When you're just going down that huge ramp, you want to feel as stable as possible. And then in the air, right, you want to be able to have as much glide as possible. That's why they make their bodies so fat. And then it just creates more lift and more drag. So the skis help with that, right? But they're really long, right? They just take the stability and the strength of a race ski and just blow it up, make it big so that you can have that stability that you want, but also be able to really get that glide that you want. And then when you land, obviously you're landing at a high speed, so I'm sure that length of ski would help you stop and really stay in control. So those are kind of the big ones that I wanted to talk about. After that you could get into more specifics about like the exact model that a athlete is skiing on, right? I think of like a lot of these athletes have their own skis. I think of what's his name? There's a guy on Armada. If someone wants to comment and tell me, he's the one that always barks. He goes arf, 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 arf. That's what he does when he goes skiing. And he skis for Armada, and he's fantastic. And he's always on the Dolo because that's his ski. That's his pro model. Or like Tom Walsh. I don't think he was at the Olympics, but once again, he's got his own pro model ski. But a lot of these athletes were on next year's skis, which was really cool to see because we could kind of get a glimpse into, what we can expect from these certain categories of skis, right? And when it comes to park skiing, I saw a decent amount of Bent to Codes, which I was able to ride at Park City a couple weeks ago, which was super fun, super cool ski. And it's cool to see athletes up on those and see how they perform for someone who can ski much better than me, right? So now that you've learned a little, as you see like highlights, or if you end up going back and watching any, you can have a little more understanding of what these skis do, how they differ from other skis. We didn't even get into cross-country skis, which I guess we could. We got a couple more minutes. So I'll pull it up real fast. Country skis. We'll just click on the first one so I'm not killing your time. Time's important. So cross-country skis, really narrow. And the unique thing about cross-country skis is they have tons of camber in them, right? And it's just to give you that pop off the snow with every step. It gives you kind of some of that strength back. But they don't have a traditional binding, as you would imagine. And then they also have like special boots, right? So they just hook in here and their poles are super long. But the reason they're so narrow is more just like to cut down on drag. And usually there is some kind of pattern on the bottom so that when you do step down, you don't like slide back, but it grips the snow and pops you up. Is there a purpose in the difference of poles? I'm sure there are. I'm just a dummy. There actually kind of isn't. I guess maybe a little when you get to like high level, but I've been using the same pole since I was 14 years old. So cross-country poles are really long, and it's just so that they can kind of have the leverage to really pull back and allow them to propel themselves forward. Ski racers have like the bend in their pole, and that's only for the start of their race when they're coming out of the gate. It gives them a little more of a spring out of the gate. Hence why you're not in the Olympics 100%. I don't know if I'll ever be in the Olympics. It's fun to watch. Maybe a kid of mine will be in the Olympics. That'd be cool. But so the curvature in the race skis just give you a little more spring out the gate. But after that, you like never see them using their poles at all. And then you have park skiers. They don't really use their poles. It's more for like style than anything else. And they usually have short poles because they don't, as they're whipping around, they don't want something super long. But great question. Hope that answered it for you. One more thing about cross-country skis, though, is so underneath, like I said, it usually has a pattern to it so that it can grip the snow and so you don't slide back. But the tips and tails of the cross-country ski have different wax than the middle of the cross-country ski. So, which is unique, right? Because normally if you're waxing a ski, you just get one wax and you do the whole ski with it. But cross-country skis aren't that way. They have kick wax and glide wax. So the glide wax is on the tip and tails so that when you are when your foot is up, the glide wax helps it to move forward. And then the kick wax, when you put your foot down, it helps that ski to stick so that you can kick off and propel yourself forward. So, those are kind of some fun facts about skis and the different types of skis, especially when it comes to the Olympics. But before we wrap up, any questions? I love talking skis. So thank you so much for joining. Once again at Between Two Slopes. We're every other week, and usually Wednesdays end up being the best. And like I said, the season's starting to wind down, or here in Utah it's actually like just starting, I feel. But once we get into April, we won't be doing podcasts until the season starts kicking back up, probably October. So Thank you so much for being here. Super excited for the rest of the season and to see kind of what some of the indie brands have to bring to the table, as they haven't announced any of their stuff. But I think 2026, 2027 is going to be an awesome year. So I'm excited to continue to be Between Two Slopes with you guys, and hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you next time.